afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to the session 7 of the African Agriculture Agri Expo. We'll be focusing on the agricultural industrialization in Africa, seeds and greenhouses. I invite George Marchera. He is the Agridrive MD and Agribusiness Manager at the African Agricultural Technology Foundation. He shall enlighten us about the boosting African cassava industry through mechanized production and agro-processing along the cassava value chain. So the stage is all yours, George.
Good day to you all. Thank you once again to have this opportunity to present on the cassava sector. Let me share my presentation with you.
I request all the speakers, while they are not presenting, to keep the mic on mute. Just a gentle reminder.
Just confirm you are seeing my screen.
Yes, George, your presentation is...
Are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we can, George. Please carry on.
Okay. Right. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to talk and present this very important topic about boosting African cassava industry through mechanized production and agro-processing along the value chain. Like been introduced, my name is George Marechera. I'm the Managing Director for Agridrive Limited, and I also work as an agribusiness manager for AATF. I'll first of all just highlight what AATF is all about, and then also speak to what Agridrive is all about. Then I'll get into the details about cassava mechanization and agro-processing. AATF is a not-for-profit making organization that is headquartered in Nairobi, Kenya, and we work in 23 countries in Africa. And the main purpose of AATF is about empowering smallholder farmers with innovative agriculture technologies to generate wealth and health for families and communities. Our mission is to look at how to transform livelihoods in sub-Saharan Africa through innovative agriculture technologies. And our values are integrity, dedication, and accessibility. We are so far bankrolling at least 8 projects, which are dealing with different value chains, crop value chains. We have maize, cassava, rice, soybean, tomatoes, cowpea, and some vegetables. And so one of the key areas that AATF has dealt with is on mechanization. So to ensure that we provide the agribusiness solution for mechanization, AATF came on board and formed a company which is called Agridrive. So Agridrive is the social enterprise that is owned 100% by AATF, and we specialize in mechanization service provision. And in this, we are providing mechanization in Nigeria, where we are providing mechanization for cassava, soybean, rice, groundnuts, maize, and fodder. And if you look at agriculture mechanization, for us to be able to feed Africa, we need to identify best ways of producing. The days where agriculture was done manually cannot be able to facilitate us to feed the world. As you all know that 75% of African farmers are smallholder farmers. And the agriculture can give 11 times the return on investment. It means, therefore, that if we are going to invest in mechanization, we are actually going to be able to feed the population which is growing, which by 2050, it is estimated to reach 9.8 billion. Mechanization gives an opportunity for smallholder farmers to transition from subsistence farming to commercial farming, as it catalyzes increased production and reduces labor cost. It enhances efficiency of production, it reduces drudgery, and it actually ensures that you can actually be able to produce more per unit area. So through this, AATF in partnership with Agridrive have been implementing cassava mechanization project since 2013. And the whole essence of this is to remove all the manual operations and employ mechanical means from land preparation to harvest. whereby when you're looking at tillage, this is plowing and harrowing. We are removing manual operations to actually utilize plows and tractors and harrows. Here beside application, we are actually removing manual weeding to make sure that we only use chemicals and work becomes efficient. Planting, we plant by using machines, weeding and harvesting. And again, when you look at mechanization, mechanization does not only mean mechanization at land preparation. Mechanization has to be looked in a holistic picture where you are looking at from land preparation to processing. And when you're looking at processing, we need to consider industrial, community, and household-based processing. And through this, for us to improve efficiency in the cassava sector, you need to look at the systems approach to mechanization, where you're looking at improved seeds, agronomy, IT and farm aggregation, mechanization itself, agro-processing, and farming as a business. And this is the approach that AATF has taken on board when it's implemented its cassava mechanization agro-processing, which is being implemented in Nigeria, Zambia, Uganda, and Tanzania. Basically, the objective of the project is to improve cassava productivity and incomes for the farmers, reduce drudgery, improve quality of work, provide employment and stimulate rural growth, and then strengthen market linkages. This project started in 2013, and due to the success stories of this project, in Nigeria, we then started implementing a commercial approach, which now resulted in the birth of a company called Agridrive, which now spearheading the mechanization. Work has continued in Zambia and Uganda and Tanzania through the TAT, and so far, the success story is that farmers have managed to increase their yield from the 10, 11 tons they're getting prior to mechanization to over 30 tons. These farmers have also been managed to be linked to processors, and they are getting money, good money. And the business model for sustainability of this is that we have to look at farmer aggregation. Most farmers in these countries they own small pieces of land, which is not economical for mechanization. So what one needs to do to make sure that there's sustainability is to identify the farmers, identify land, work with the state governments, and identify land where you allocate farmers contiguous land, and then you aggregate, then cluster them and provide them training for mechanization and farming as a business. Then for each farmer to own a tractor is very expensive. So you need to identify local entrepreneurs and train them into mechanization service providers. These are entrepreneurs who own tractors and implements, and they provide the mechanization services to the farmers, who then pay for the services, and the farmers will not need to own tractors and implements as individuals. Then training of tractor operators to be tractor service providers. Then establishing of model farms, where now farmers, entrepreneurs are trained on mechanization, agribusiness support systems, and marketing and value addition. Then to ensure that there's sustainability, we also need to leverage on digital technology, where we use IT, we use artificial intelligence, we also use drone technology to ensure that we facilitate information dissemination, we facilitate the linkage of the farmers to the markets, so that eventually we have a very smooth value chain approach to it. And the more important is the issues of financial inclusion, where we work with microfinancing, government, project financing to ensure that the farmers are supported with finance, and then they are linked to the markets. One thing that you would note is that when you come up with mechanization that is linked to cassava production, one thing you have to note that for those investing in equipment, most cases mechanization is viewed only with tillage. But if someone invests in tractors and is only providing tillage, it means it does not make any business sense. So one thing that we have learned and that we have done is to ensure that there's mechanization across the value chain, where we start with tillage, we look at planting, we look at weeding, we look at harvesting, then also looking at spraying. So for each service provider, the more you do all the activities, plowing, planting, weeding, harvesting, it makes more business sense because you can actually utilize your tractor throughout the year. And by utilizing your tractor throughout the year, it makes it more economically viable because you are able to even service when you take a loan. So that makes it easier for you to invest in tractors, in implements, because you are sure that at the end of the day, you'll be able to get your returns after the use. And again, if you look at the benefits of mechanization, when you are doing tillage only, the labor cost reduction is 19. But when you move to do tillage and planting, the labor cost reduction goes up to $29. And when you do all the activities mechanically, you are reducing the labor cost by up to $131. Same applies with yield increase. If you only do one operation like tillage is 84, but if you do all the four, you end up having 368. And the total benefit of all per unit area can actually be summed up to 540. So it makes it possible and financially viable for you to use mechanization as you benefit with increased productivity. And these are the results on the ground. Normally, when you're doing manual operation, it takes you 30 days to do plow and harrow, 1 hectare of cassava, which is up to about 240 hours. And it will cost you $180. But if it's mechanized, you can actually do this in 1.5 hours, and it costs you $140. So imagine someone taking 30 days in a country where the rain season is only 3 months. It means by the time he finishes, the rain season is almost halfway. But when you do it mechanically, it means you're actually able to do it in 1 hour. So within the 30 days, you could actually have done more than 300 hectares. Same applies with stem preparation, planting. It takes 8 days manually, but it can take you 45 minutes. Harvesting, 45 days, but it can take you 4 hours. And if you look at the yield manually, and when things are done badly without good agronomic practice, one can actually only harvest 7 tons. But with mechanized approach, which is integrated with the systems approach where include mechanization, agronomy, business, agribusiness, you actually end up harvesting 30 tons, which can give you a net income of up 2,000 and above. So to make sure that we link farmers to the farm to ensure that, especially in this COVID era, where there's need for social distancing, there's need to ensure that farmers really go to the field, but on the other end are not affected. AATF in partnership with Agridrive come up with a digital app which is called Agridrive App, where you can actually download it from Play Store, where farmers can actually book and pay for mechanization services without really the interface of Agridrive staff or even those service providers. So you can pay for plowing, harrowing, planting, harvesting, and haulage. It enables mechanization service provider to manage the provision of mechanization services. It can identify who and where the farmers are, identify what and which services they want. You can track fuel usage by the tractors and avoid the abuse of the equipment. And it can also support farmers with weather information and other extension activities. So these actually are some of the things that we have done to make sure that you promote and commercialize cassava mechanization and agro-processing. Also ensure that we have efficiency in our approach. We've also integrated drones, where we are using these drones for data collection, validation, analysis for decision making. It makes it easier, for example, in Nigeria, where we have farms that are as big as 1,000 hectares. Instead of manually measuring these farms to see how big they are or what extent of work they've done, we are now using drones where we can actually do the work easily. We are using them to measure the farm size, to look at plant population, to look at weed pressure, to detect pests and diseases, to also validate soil nutrients and estimate yields. So this again is a package to ensure that we are actually trying to promote cassava production and processing, and at the end of the day, ensure that there's wealth creation. In terms of the demand and pathway, we have individuals who come and say we want to have our farms being mechanized. We have cluster approach where we have a number of farmers coming together to access mechanization. We have private sector and engagement. We have partners projects that come in, but also all in all, mechanization is very gender sensitive in the sense that we all know that 75% of the work that is done in cassava field is done by women and youth. So if we bring on board mechanization, it means these women and youth are actually going to have more time to do other economically beneficial activities at the home, be it join another cooperative for training in actually value addition or any other economically beneficial activities. By so doing, mechanization is gender sensitive and it actually ensures that there is prosperity at the end of the day. In terms of the delivery pathway, mechanization has been done by private entrepreneurs, like the case in point where we have Agridrive providing the services. It can be association based, where they have association members who own the equipment, then they service themselves. We can have countries where they've got government sponsored programs which are promoting mechanization. Then also you have institutions or international organizations like AATF that then support mechanization to ensure that there is increased productivity, wealth creation, and then value addition at the end of the day. The critical success factors for mechanization, especially for cassava, is that there is need for sufficient demand for mechanization. We need to look at the realization of benefits to the farmers in terms of the cost, the time, the yield. And this is what makes mechanization successful. There is need for us to be able to identify or the ability to access equipment that is reliable and timely. Each country has different needs, or each country is a different level of development. So when you look at mechanization for cassava, it does not necessarily mean that you have to one fit all. So you have to do a thorough analysis and see which mechanization equipment is needed in this country or in this community. Then you identify those, access them, and make sure that the farmers are trained on the use and the benefit of those equipment. Then you also need to look at aftermarket business support, where you see spare parts are very essential. If you don't have spare parts, then mechanization is going to be very difficult, because most of the farms that we provide mechanization is, some of them are not very good for mechanization because countries are starting to intensify on mechanization. So there's need for clear land, good land clearing, ensuring that all the stones are removed. So if you don't have spare parts, it means your equipment is going to break down. Then the farmers will be disheartened because they'll wait for the service and they'll not get it. We also need to have experienced operators.
Can you hear me much?
I'm right. I'm winding up now.
Yes, my apologies. Actually, just reminding you to stick to the time. We've exceeded by 5 minutes. So if
okay,
we can,
then this is my okay.
much, yeah.
You also have to have a commercial business acumen that allows proficiency in the use of that. With that, I thank you and thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, George. It was very enlightening, the kind of information and the pros and cons that you discussed about the cassava technology and the value chain. Really appreciate that. I would like to move forward with our next speaker for the session 7, Dr. Paresh Verma, the Chief Executive for the Bioseed Asia. Hello?
Go to the
Yes, Dr. Paresh, am I audible?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let me share my screen and I think let me start the video.
Sure.
For a minute.
Be there a pandemic, be there a calamity. Every day, farmers around the globe start their day with a commitment to make a difference, no matter where they belong, what they produce. We at Bioseed empower farmers with high-quality solutions of the future, from the right hybrids to the right cultivation techniques. More than 60 scientists and plant breeders form the backbone of our research cell. Their goal is to develop hybrids of superior genetics with high yield potential and wide adaptability. We have 13 breeding stations plants and multiple testing stations spread across South and Southeast Asia. Our production facilities in India and Philippines are governed by strict quality protocols prescribed by the International Seed Testing Association. At BioSeed, we constantly ask how we can do more, offer more for our farmers, dealers, and ourselves. Our products range from cotton, maize, paddy, mustard, bajra, wheat, tomato, brinjal, melons, and gourds. At the end of the day, we all have the same goal. Whether you're a scientist from India, a farmer growing paddy in Nepal, or corn in Philippines, together we will feed the world. BioSeed.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone, and it's really a pleasure to share my views on how we can increase productivity through use of genetically superior and good quality seeds. I'm Paresh Verma. I work for a company called BioSeed, which is part of the DCM Shriram Group here in India. And you just saw the intro in terms of what we do, what kind of research activities we have, and what kind of customer base and customer services we have. So without getting much into about our company, I'll go straight into setting the context for the topic that I have today, which is to define what is the need to increase productivity. Now, if we look at the map of the world and see which countries are most dependent on food and feed imports, and this is a slide which is telling you the import dependency with respect to cereal grains, it is very clear that it is the African continent which stands out. And in fact, if we look at the numbers, it's not surprising that Africa is not only the net importer of food, but the food imports are likely to grow from the present levels of about 80 billion US dollars to roughly 110 or so billion dollars in another 4 or 5 years. So this is something which in a way has really increased the focus of most of the governments in the region on focusing on increasing their domestic food production. And this focus has actually increased after the onset of this current COVID-19 pandemic. The opportunity, however, is that there is still a very large area here in Africa, which is arable land and which is either not being utilized for agriculture or which is being underutilized for agriculture. The other opportunity is that there is a lot of potential for penetration of high-yielding varieties and hybrids, because there are very, very few regions where cultivation of high-yielding varieties and hybrids is common. Obviously, agronomic practices are suboptimal, so that's another opportunity for increasing food production. If we look at the yield gains or productivity gains that have happened over the last several decades, it's very clear that Africa has really not increased its productivity in terms of kilograms per hectare, whereas all other regions in the world, whether it's Asia, North America, South America, Western Europe, etc., they have increased productivity over time. And that again points us to the fact that there is tremendous potential to increase adoption of high-yielding varieties, increase productivity through adoption of high-yielding varieties. And for this, therefore, the use of high-quality seeds will have to play a very, very critical role. Not just because seed is the most critical input in any farming system, but also because seed is really the delivery vehicle through which we can deliver all the new technologies, whether they are from genetic research or plant breeding research or biotechnology innovations in the form of biotech traits. The advantage is that seed is also scale neutral. So a small farmer will really benefit in the same proportion as a large farmer would. And therefore, it's not surprising that if we look at the adoption of some of the high yielding varieties and hybrids in a crop like pearl millet in India, or hybrid rice in India, or for that matter, BT cotton or other GM traits across the world, most of the adoption has happened at the level of small farm holdings, where farmers have small holdings and they have suboptimal agronomic practices. In Africa, particularly, the estimate from a study which was conducted by Wageningen University says that African farmers lose up to 50% of their potential yield only on account of bad seed or mostly even fake seed. So, what are the technology options then which are available to us? Obviously, we have the option of introducing new varieties and hybrids, which we can develop through conventional breeding. And these hybrids and varieties which have high yield, they have high tolerance to diseases and insect pests, and also they have tolerance to various environmental stresses. But there are also opportunities to actually develop and introduce new traits such as herbicide tolerance or insect resistance or nutritional enhancement, etc. And like I mentioned earlier, all these technologies can be delivered and can only be delivered through seeds. Obviously, when seed is such a critical input in any farming system, we not only have to make sure how these technologies in seed get developed, but we also need to focus on whether these good quality seeds are becoming available to the farmers. And whereas there are different other parameters also which are important, I think the three most important things: one is the development of new hybrids and varieties, the mechanism or ecosystem to make sure that they get produced in adequate quantity and they become available at affordable prices, and then the overarching requirement of a conducive seed policy and regulation framework. So, addressing the first thing first, I think what we need to do to strengthen the research and development, leading to development of high-yielding, genetically superior hybrids and varieties, is we must enhance the public sector research system in all the countries in the region. We also need to increase the participation of the private sector, whether it is in research or in seed production or seed distribution. In the entire seed sector, I think we need to increase the participation of the private sector. And we, the speed of research and development will further increase if we have liberalized access and exchange of germplasm resources, because these are key to the these are key requirements in order for breeders to develop new varieties. To accelerate the introduction of new varieties and hybrids, I think it's very important that we not only have efficient testing mechanisms, but we also have these mechanisms regionally harmonized. So each country does not really have to go through the same process and start from scratch, so to speak. I think we can achieve harmonization based on some kind of agroclimatic homogeneity across the region or at regional levels. And this, coupled with accelerated testing and release mechanism, I think will ensure that the new varieties and hybrids get introduced at an accelerated pace. Now, this is just an example that I would like to share from India, just to show how the specific technology innovations which were delivered through the high quality seeds have made a difference. On the left hand side, this is an example of cotton, and you can see after the introduction and approval and adoption of BT cotton, the productivity as well as production of cotton in India has increased significantly, whereas there has been hardly any increase or very small increase in its area. Similarly, in corn, if we see, we saw the first phase of yield increase when hybrids got introduced, and these were mostly double cross and three-way hybrids. And then we had the second rate of increase in the last 20 years or so after the single cross hybrids were introduced. So clearly, if we introduce new technologies, we can realize significant increase in not just productivity but also in production, and this also ultimately translates into economic benefits to the farmers. In addition to new technologies in the form of new hybrids and varieties, which are mostly through conventional plant breeding, I think the other opportunity is for adoption of new technologies which get developed through various biotechnology innovations. And these would include approval and adoption of GM traits, insect resistance, for example, or herbicide tolerance or nutritional enhancement, or developed through use of new technologies such as genome editing technology. And here in this table, this is just an example of how the new technologies have not just benefited the yield and the profitability of the farmer, thereby improving the farmer's living standards and quality of life, but they have also had a positive impact on the environment through reduced use of chemical insecticide, or they have had a positive rub-off effect on health of the farmers and the farm labor by reducing the pesticide poisoning incidences and so on. Obviously, the next step, like I mentioned, after you have developed a new variety or a hybrid, we must ensure that we have the ecosystem and the capacity to produce adequate quantities of high quality seed and then make them available to the farmers. So it is important that we develop that capacity, not just at the technical level, at the level of the organizations who are producing and making those seeds available, but also at the level of those farmers who are involved in the seed production system, who are seed producers for us. And this has to be supported by investments in seed production, processing, quality control infrastructure, etc. So we have to have a holistic approach, so to speak. The R&D capacity, the seed production capacity, and also then the next in line will obviously be the agri input distribution channels, which would need to get developed so that the seed that gets produced reaches the farmer at the last mile. In terms of the policy framework that will make all this possible, which is actually the need of the hour today, because of the large gaps that we have to fill, we need to have liberalized regulations for germplasm access and exchange. We need to have a harmonized policy framework, which is harmonized at a regional level for accelerated testing and release of new varieties. Incidentally, the current rate of release of new varieties is slowest in the world in Africa. And therefore, it is very, very important that all the countries in the region actually cohesively work towards changing this situation. Because the faster we can introduce new genetics, the faster the benefits will accrue at the farmer level. We can learn from some of the positive examples. For example, in India, the Indian government introduced a new seed policy way back in 1987, which focused on liberalizing trade regulations, liberalizing germplasm movement and exchange, and it also focused on accelerated introduction of promising hybrids and varieties from outside of India. So that was a very, very key feature, and I think this is something that we can emulate even in Africa. We need to support the development and adoption of hybrid rice, particularly because it's a very important food crop in many regions in Africa. And also, in addition to all this, I think there has to be a focused approach to accelerate the adoption of new biotechnology innovations, whether they come from GM or genome editing approach. We already have technologies which are available elsewhere in the world. For example, in corn, we have not insect resistance, but also drought tolerance. Or in rice, we have nutritional enrichment. Just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, vitamin A enriched rice got approved in the Philippines. We have drought tolerance technologies in very advanced stages in rice, besides insect resistance, which is already there. Similarly, in cotton, soybean, cowpea, we have primarily insect resistance technologies, which are extremely critical, but also herbicide tolerance technology, which is available, which is in a way, out there, ready to be picked up and adopted in Africa. We need to have liberalized trade regulations because that will encourage the participation of the private sector. And again, this is something that we have experienced happened we have experienced that happen in India way back in 1987, and that of course changed the trajectory with which the Indian seed industry developed and matured in the last 40 years or so, 30, 40 years. We must invest in research and seed production to build and strengthen the capacities to support these functions, because a lot of the research must be done locally eventually. So it is very important that we make investments in these areas, and obviously the overarching policy framework will have to support these investments and incentivize these investments. We must facilitate the development of agri-input marketing and distribution channels so that we increase the farmers' access to good quality seed. We can also, improve the availability of good quality seed very quickly simply by participating in the OECD seed schemes. And lastly, I think, some countries have moved forward at a faster pace, more progressively. And I think other countries or other regions should really emulate a progressive policy framework which has been adopted by some of these countries already. And the results are there to see, whether it's Egypt or Malawi or Tanzania, Ethiopia, etc. recently. So with that, thank you very much.
Yes.
And I hope I have not over exceeded my time limit.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Paresh. It was very enlightening listening to the entire, the seed production and the research and development and the kind of policies that needs to be looked into for a better survival for not just the farmers, for everyone around the world. Thank you so much for sharing your insights. I now call upon Mr. Inaki Vicuro Lopez. He is the export manager for MSC Greenhouses. I share the stage with Inaki now, who is going to share his insights about the use of greenhouses in overall agricultural development. All yours, Inaki. Thank you.
Hi. Hello, good evening, good afternoon to everyone. I'm Iñaki. I'm speaking from Spain. I worked for a company which is MSC Greenhouses, which is specialized in greenhouse manufacturing and greenhouse project development.
Inaki, I think we're not able to see your presentation. It's the third icon. Yes, it's the third icon from the cursor. You were at the bottom.
I'm trying to share the screen.
Yes, Inaki, please follow the bottom third button right beside the mic and camera. Not here.
Okay. Sorry. I will
Yes,
come back.
please come down in the center.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
Inaki, I think you're going through the comments. You need to share your screen from the bottom where
Yes,
the mic.
I mean the where it shows share a screen.
Yes, please
Okay.
click on the share screen. Absolutely.
I do share a screen, and where it says share is not sharing.
I don't see. It's the small, computer-like icon at the bottom in the center.
Yeah, a screen share. I do a screen share,
It's as if
and
that you're clicking on the replies of the question answers, I think.
correct, and it said share complete screen. I do share, but it doesn't share.
Let's do one thing, Inaki. You can go at the backstage. I think Rushda is there. She will help you with the presentation screen share. So meanwhile, I'll move forward with Mr.
Sure,
Ajay, so
sure,
that we don't, waste the time over here. So you can
sure.
keep on the back, go backstage. Rushda will be there for you.
Okay, so we'll do that. Sorry for that.
Not a problem. Not a problem. I'll be waiting for you here.
Okay, sure.
Thank you. Yes. Hello. Hello. Mr. Ajay, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, sorry for the inconvenience in between. We'll sort it out very quickly. I request you to take the stage, Mr. Ajay. Mr. Ajay is the Vice President at the Portfolio Strategies for Axon Highwick Private Limited, where we will be discussing about supporting vegetable growers with quality seeds. The stage is yours, Mr. Ajay.
Yeah, just a minute. Can you see my screen?
It's visible.
Yeah. A very good afternoon to all of you, and greetings from Mixon Highwich. I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to speak at this Africa Agri Expo, which is a wonderful platform. Today I would be talking about supporting vegetable growers with quality seeds. Basically, the presentation is about the company which we are dealing with, like which we are working with, and we are working on giving support to the farmers by providing quality seeds. I am Ajay Dayal, Vice President, Portfolio Strategies and Global Business. Exxon Highwich has a vision, mission, and philosophy statement which says that we want to be the provider of best quality seeds globally and transform farming for better farm profits with satisfying farmers through high quality products. With all this vision, mission, and philosophy statement, Exxon Highwich was established in 2009 as a customer-centric vegetable seed company, and today it is one of the leading top vegetable seed company in India within a span of 10 years. We have a strong professional team, and we utilize modern biotech tools as well as conventional breeding to breed for the products as per the demand of the farmers with the aim of providing better farm benefits. Now we have also expanded, beside vegetables, we have also expanded into maize, millet, mustard, and paddy. Hybrid
reach our capacity, you can say that we are dealing in more than 30 crops, which are all hybrids and OP together. And within a span of 10 years, we have developed 250 crop varieties and hybrids. And for developing those hybrids, we are working on 150 acres of R&D, modernized R&D farms. Every year we take more than 2,000 trials at farmers' fields. And we have 4 million satisfied farmers. Every year we are selling 5 millions of seed packet to these farmers. And to produce seed for these farmers, we have production partners in 25,000 production partners, and we have spread in 100,000 villages. India is our major territory, but we are exporting our seeds to 15 more countries in South and Southeast Asia, in SAARC countries, and in some of the Middle East countries. Now we are looking to have expansion in Africa continent. Production research to production launch is a complete chain, where we start with the R&D, which is our major focus, which we are basically an R&D company, and we have more than 60 scientists who are working to give product as per the demand of the market and customers. And we have major four research stations in India: north, south, east and north part of India, like Himalayas, for temperate crops. Apart from four major stations, we have 24 satellite stations also for R&D, where we are screening our germplasm and breeding for abiotic trait tolerance breeding. Once the product is identified from R&D, we are taking trials at farmers' field for 2 continuous years. That is by the independent team of product specialists. And then we organize seed production for those selected hybrids. Commercially, we are producing more than 1,000 tons of hybrid seeds in India annually, and we have different seed production locations spread across India in different geographies, so that we can deliver seed as per the requirement of the market in the season. And then we have very good seed quality. Our major focus is on seed quality. Our quality lab is like ISTA accredited, and we are enhancing seed genetics by seed treatment also. Various seed treatments are done. After genetics is done, we also do seed treatment. And then we have processing facilities in India, one in north, one in south. And we take minimum turnaround time to deliver products to the market with these processing facilities. There's whole chain of sales and marketing network who supplies seed and also advise on extension activities and capacity building for the growers. At Excel Highway, quality is our priority. As I said, our lab is ISTA member, and we have accreditation from NABL, which is National Accreditation Board for Testing and Calibration Laboratories. For seed testing, this is like external agency who does competency check on testing of seeds. And we are ISO 9001-2015 certified company. Again, this is the external certification done by after auditing of our production and process of agro seeds. The Access to Seed Index, which is a part of World Benchmarking Alliance, measures and compares the efforts of world's leading seed companies to enhance productivity of smallholder farmers. And Exxon Highway ranked by them in 2019 as number 6 in South and Southeast Asia, and ranked number 1 regional seed company of India. The major indicator measurement areas were governance and strategies, genetic resources, intellectual property, R&D capacity, seed production, marketing and sales, and capacity building. So these were in alignment with Food and Agriculture Sustainable Development Goals. So we ranked number 6 and number 1 regional company by them. This is rating of access to seats in 2019, and they did the survey for 24 companies in South and Southeast Asia. So apart from seed quality, we have crop assortment where we have major focus on quality traits. Apart from quality of seeds, we have quality traits we are focusing on the crops which we are dealing. We are dealing in more than 35 crops. Like in cucurbitaceae, we have all gourds. Then we have pumpkins, cucumbers, watermelon, and melon. We are dealing in okra, onion, carrots, and sweet corn. Also tomato, eggplant, and hot pepper. And this is the one of the very few companies who are doing research on temperate crops like cabbage, cauliflower, kohlrabi, broccoli, and radish. So we are doing research on these crops in-house. Then we are also into row crops like mustard, pearl millet, paddy, and maize. Since time is very limited, we have a long assortment of more than 250 hybrids. But I can show you different segmentation of crops, and in crops itself there is many segmentation where we are working and on which traits we are working for the quality seeds to be provided to the farmers. Like in gourds, we have bitter gourd, bottle gourd, sponge gourd, rich gourd, vex gourd, and snake gourd. And these are the different types for different segments and different customer requirements. So, and we are focused on different traits like earliness, predominantly female flowers for high yield, fruit quality, strong canopy for tolerance of disease, longevity for higher yields, resistance for powdery mildew, downy mildew, and we are also incorporating local types like local taste and shape and color in hybrids for the OP varieties. Similarly, in cucumber, we are dealing in Asiatic type. Then we have poinsett, we have short cucumber, and we have white cucumber, and we have cucumber for both open field cultivation as well as greenhouse. And our major focus is high yield, uniform fruit shape and size, both mono and gynoecious fruit. Gynoecious for high yield, monoecious for longevity of the crop, so that farmer can take for longer time. We are working on resistance for downy mildew and cucumber mosaic virus. Similarly, in tomato, our major focus is to give durable resistance for tomato leaf curl virus, and we are doing gene pyramiding for different races of TY1, 2, 3, and TY6. And in abiotic stresses, we are working on heat set, wider adaptability with superior fruit quality traits, longer shelf life, and local taste. Again, like the local OP varieties, we are giving the same taste in hybrids with improved yields. Hot pepper is again a crop where segmentations are many, and it is a crop which is like the major crop for India, and we have divided it into like fresh purpose and dry purpose. For
I
fresh
just request
purpose,
Ajay
we are
to find up the presentation in the next minute or so.
yeah. So I will run through because these are the types. Different. What I want to show is like we have different type and segmentation in different crops. We are working on focus traits for the benefits of the farmers. Like in eggplant, also these are the different segments and types, and our major focus is on disease tolerance with excellent fruit quality and better plant habit. Okra is a big crop for Africa, and we are working on like yellow vein mosaic virus, initial leaf curl virus, and along with fruit quality and improving yield by way of crop longevity and short internodes. Watermelon, again, we are working on gummy stem blight and anthracnose. Pumpkin, early maturity, zucchini, yellow mosaic virus resistance. Temperate crop, as I said, these are the crops where very few companies are working, and we are like breeding and producing these crops in India at lower cost because these crops basically are imported in India. So we can provide seeds to growers at lower cost. These are some of the extension activities and capacity building which we are doing apart from selling seeds. Like we are doing, especially for women farmers in India. These are like how to grow crops for increasing profits. And these are the success stories posted by farmers on YouTube link. So we are supporting with high quality seeds and products. This is a small video.
Over the past years, we have come a long way. We innovated. We persevered. We excelled. We have succeeded in yielding better results. More than everything, we believed in each other, leading us to this very point in time. Today, with all that we have learned from the last 10 years, we are seeking answers. We are enthralled by the thought of what lies ahead of us. We are profoundly looking out for what's next. A step forward in innovation, in professional excellence, in sustainable growth. A step further to serve the farming community. A step ahead, day after day, presenting Axon, the next step.
So you can visit at www.highwich.com for more product detail, because these were the details which were like major segmentation, and we are looking for partners in Africa continent to expand our business. So you may contact me for any queries and any expansion activities in Africa continent. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ajay. It was a very enlightening video about the quality seeds that one should be producing. Thank you so much. I now invite Inaki Lucero Lopez, the MSc Greenhouses Export Manager for the Middle East and Africa. The stage is yours, Inaki. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I believe now you can see the presentation, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Very clearly. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I apologize for the delay. I just presented myself. I'm Iñaki, working for a company called MSc Greenhouses, which specialized in greenhouse manufacturing and greenhouse project development around the world. In all the presentation that we've been enjoying last 2 days, speakers talked about the need of increasing the quantity and the quality of the food production. So in this case, the greenhouses play an important role in maximizing the production of vegetables, and also maximizing the efficiency in the use of the water. Greenhouses is a system that helps to produce more quantity and with better quality, but it has some constraints. Actually, it does have a cost that need to be covered with the sales of the production, and we're facing a challenge in Africa, in many countries in Africa, which is the temperature. The temperature is not allowing to produce as much as we would like in some countries in Africa. My speech is gonna be about how to design greenhouses in warm environments. Okay, And always in commercial greenhouse, we look for the profitability of our projects. There are many situations that we face, our clients saying that they are looking for the last technology, the most sophisticated greenhouses, and we believe this is a wrong point of view. If we look at this graph, we have the cost, the investment, and then we have the production. So in the curve, we see that there is a part of the curve that an increase in the investment gives us an increase in the production. But when we go very far in the sophistication, every time we increase more, we don't see that much efficiency in the investment. So we have to take this curve very much into consideration, and we have to measure the level of investment we do in our greenhouses to make them profitable. Okay, so in case of warm environments, there are different ways of fighting the heat in order to have good yield, good result, good profitability, but we also have to look at the cost of these devices. So I'm going to make a review of all the options we have to fight the heat and have a good production, good profitability in greenhouse. We will increase the amount of food that we produce, but always taking into consideration the cost. Okay, so there are different strategies to design a greenhouse in hot environments. First of it is to avoid the heat. I mean, we need to try our greenhouses not to be affected by the heat. We don't want the heat to come into the greenhouse. The heat will come. The heat will come. So once we have the heat inside the greenhouse, we have to remove that. Okay, and the other strategy is whatever we cannot remove, then we have to reduce the temperature of the air. So these are the three strategies that we are going to work with, okay, in order to have a good control of the environment and a good production. In order to reduce the entrance of heat, the most basic options are shadings. There are different options of shading. We can use a shade screen. That they could be these are clothes that they are made of different material in function of the area of the crop. We can use plastics, aluminium, different material that will shade our greenhouse. They can be internal shade screen, as the one in the picture, or they can even be external shade screens. Each one has a different effect, but the idea is to reduce the amount of radiation entering into the greenhouse. Also, we can use fixed nets. All these devices, what we use is to reduce the amount of radiation, of sun radiation entering into the greenhouses. In the same line, there are films, polyethylene films, which is the cover of the greenhouses, that have some additives that gives shade. So in this picture, we see the white cover, okay, which is already limiting the amount of sun entering the greenhouse, which also will reduce the heat. Another option is painting the cover. There are specific painters. This is a white painter that are applied above the cover, greenhouse cover. In some countries in Africa, I've also seen that they use earth or mud. They mix the soil with some water and they put it in top of the cover. So that will reduce also the sun radiation and will also reduce the temperature into the greenhouse. Besides that, there are more sophisticated devices, but they are also profitable. Okay, we're still not in the expensive part of the devices. Okay, which is the double inflatable cover. This is the greenhouses. They are covered not by one single film, but by two polyethylene films. These films have an air blower in between. This is what we see here in the picture. This is an air blower that actually what it does, it creates an air chamber in between the two film covers. So we will create an isolation. Okay, so here we will have a radiation coming in, but the heat won't be transferred inside the greenhouse. Now there is a technology, very new technology, which is related to the films cover, the polyethylene films cover manufacturing, which are films that have a specific additive that they allow the photosynthetic after radiation, which is the light that the plants need to grow. They allow them inside the greenhouse, but the infrared radiation, which is the heat, is not allowed to come through the films. Okay, so this is a specific films which are very interesting because we keep the part of the sun radiation which interests us, which is the productive light, the plant that makes the plant and the fruits grow. We let it in, but the heat we let it out. Okay, and they also have a very, very, very low cost. Also, another activity that we can introduce in our design is painting in white. We found out that well, the material that we use inside the greenhouse, they have different colors. Okay, and if we make the effort of having everything in white color, either manufacturing them in white color or, in case it's not manufactured in white color, painted it with white color, we have an important decrease in the temperature inside the greenhouse. So this is everything we can do to avoid the heat. I mean, what I just showed is how we avoid the heat inside the greenhouse. But unfortunately, we're going to have the heat inside the greenhouse. So we have other devices that will help us to remove the heat that has already entered the greenhouse. There are different type of films, coming back to the film technology, and there are films that are made to keep the heat inside the greenhouse, which is called the greenhouse effect. This is the picture on the right side. So these films are used for cold weathers. We are looking for keeping the keep inside the greenhouse. So at the day with the sunlight, the heat enters the greenhouse, and during the night, the films keeps the heat inside. So there are other films that are called no thermal films that allow the heat, which is inside the infrared radiation, to come out of the greenhouse. Okay, so it is important to look after the proper polyethylene film to have the best environment inside of our greenhouse. And all this, I repeat, all this that I'm presenting here, it has no cost implication. Okay, so this is a little, very little things that we can do with very little cost that will make a huge difference in the production at the end. We like working with high extractors. It's very common in Africa and in other parts of the world to see low extractors, which are it's easier to manufacture. We do like to go for very high extractors. The hot air weighs less than the cold air. This means that the hot air that we have inside of the greenhouse will go up. The higher is our greenhouse, the farther the hot air will be from our plants. So we have to avoid the short greenhouses. Structurally, making high greenhouses is not always easy because they need certain reinforcements and certain design to resist the wind, to resist the crop load. But it will really help us controlling the environment inside of the greenhouse. So the higher we go, the better. Now we're working with greenhouse which heights are around 8 to 9 meters in the zenith, in the highest point. Regularly, we see greenhouses of 3 meters, which we believe is too short for warm environments. Of course, natural ventilation. This is very important. As I just said, hot air is in the top of the greenhouse. So if we open a window, the hot air will be released. Just as easy as that. We need to have greenhouses with a lot of ventilation, so the hot air can leave the greenhouse. And this ventilation should be in the highest point of the greenhouse. Side ventilation always helps because we need the air to enter the greenhouse and go in and gets warm, and then goes up because of it becomes lighter, and then it is released by the zenith ventilation. But having greenhouses with big areas of windows, it's crucial. In case that natural ventilation by windows is not enough, we can work with forced ventilation. Okay, these are exhaust fans. In this case, we start having cost implication. These fans run with electric energy, so this is already it's a constraint because we have to have electrical supply, and we need to pay for that. Until now, everything I presented is almost, I would say, cost-free. For very little increase in cost, we will have a very important increase in production, in yield, and our profitability will be much, much better. The last strategy is to reduce the temperature of the air. Once we have avoided the heat to come in and we have removed the hot air from inside the greenhouse, we may need to reduce the temperature even more. So in this case, the only profitable way of reducing temperature is evaporating water. Here, in some countries of Africa, we have a challenge, which is the humidity. In this picture, we see that a large area of region in Africa, the air humidity is high. This means that we are limited to evaporate water. The drier is the air, the more quantity of water we can evaporate, and more we can reduce the temperature. If the air already has humidity, we cannot evaporate much water, and our capacity to reduce temperature will be less. So this is a challenge, but it works very well in the dry areas, dry regions in Africa. So to evaporate water, there are different systems. One of the easiest one is fogging. We create a mist. There are different type of fogging systems with low pressure, high pressure. Actually, what we do is we create very fine mist, and the water is evaporated, and the air temperature is reduced. If we need even to reduce more the temperature, we have to use a cooling by fan and path system. These are path walls that are wetted, and then we have in the other side of the greenhouses, we have exhaust fans. So the air will go through the paths, which are wet with water, and we will evaporate the water, and the air will enter the greenhouse at low temperature. So this system are very efficient to reduce the temperature, but also they have an important cost, and they consume water and they consume energy.
Nancy, can you please wind up the presentation in the next 1 minute, please?
Yeah, sure. So we have other devices which are even more expensive, which are chillers, air conditioning, dehumidifiers. These are other devices that can be used, but actually the cost is it doesn't make the projects profitable. Other aspects that helps the control of environment is the plant density, is the pruning. There are many things that we can do to reduce the heat into the greenhouse and doesn't have any cost implication. We are currently investing in some projects, in different projects in Africa, just to study which is the relation of benefit and cost of the different devices, the different designs that I just explained, and very soon we will have very interesting results to understand which is the best design for each one of the regions in Africa for our greenhouses. So thank you very much for your time. And if you have any question, I will be glad to answer you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Inaki. It was a very enlightening, presentation about greenhouses and how cost effectively they can be, constructed. Thank you so much for sharing your information with us. For all the viewers who have questions for our panelists, kindly drop your questions under the Q&A tab, which is on the right side of your screen, and we'll pick them up. Thank you so much, Naki, once again. I now invite our elite speaker, Thomas Kukovic. He's an export director for Africa for Technique Plus, where we are going to discuss about the African agricultural industry, keeping in mind the Senegalese, Austro, and Italian farming project and businesses. Thomas, the stage is yours.
Hello, good afternoon, and thank you very much for the nice, kind introduction. I think I'm gonna immediately share my screen with you. So it's not really a presentation like the others have it. It's a photo presentation, so people wouldn't get bored too much when I'm talking. But I'm just figuring out, I don't know why it's not sharing my screen now.
Not a
it
problem.
worked perfectly well when we tried it out, and now it's not working.
Yeah, I can still see your screen, yes.
Yes, yeah, you can see my screen. Wait a moment. Can you see my presentation now? Can you see it now?
Yes, I can. Perfect.
Okay,
yes,
okay, perfect. So, thank you for the nice introduction. A bit to myself, yes, I'm export director for the African continent by Technique Plus. I'm an Austrian producer and developer of agricultural implements. We have specialized in the initially specialized for cover crop seeders, and we are selling internationally, but in the last couple of years we have also specialized in developing soil management machines and also planters especially adapted for the soil conditions in let's say stressed and extreme environments. And Africa is one of our focuses, but also Latin America. So, but I'm not only talking in my role as export director for Africa, I'm also talking as a shareholder and a co-owner of a farm. It's a Senegalese, Austrian, Italian farming project. It's called Mafrousas in Senegal. We are Senegalese. I'm the only Austrian and basically Italian investors and agronomists who have kickstarted a year ago. It was actually a COVID project. It was born under COVID, under the first year of COVID. We wanted to do a farming project. And thanks to our very reliable people on ground, which are Senegalese, but with extensive experience in Europe, went back to Senegal, and now with their experience they gained from Europe, getting to know the European working environment, it is much easier for us as Europeans basically also to take to get kickstarted such a project in Africa, because as you know, intercultural competences is a nice word and I often claim to have it, but it's always easier to work with people also on ground who have as well intercultural competences. They know how we think, we know how they think. And so having this nice mix of people who know all the cultures makes it much more easy to start such a project. Just a little short introduction. I am working for Technique Plus, but specially responsible for a global carbon farming project. This is especially the part of our company that focuses on agriculture in Africa, that focuses on the development of machineries, implements that work well, especially in climate affected areas like in Africa, Sahel area, where we are actually quite active in Senegal. We try to develop implements that are just perfectly adapted to the conditions of the soil. We don't want to disturb the soil too much. This is why we focus on direct or on minimum tillage and direct seeding processes. Our partner, respectively, my second company, Mafru, is this young agricultural enterprise. Here is one of our tractors, small, old, but very reliable. And this is also one of the secrets of mechanization. Don't start too complicated as an investor. Don't bring the too complicated stuff into Africa. If something breaks, you don't have anybody who can fix it. But this old tractor, everybody can fix it. It's just like a Toyota Land Cruiser. Everybody knows how to get it started again. We have started because I think one of the gentlemen before has introduced his seeds and also spoke about okra. These are our first fields that we have cultivated just a couple of months ago. We started seeding and we have planted okras on roughly 20 hectares. Overall, we have like 500 hectares available for our farming project, yet we have only started with 30 hectares so far, and out of these 30 hectares, 20 hectares of okra, and already face big challenges. The biggest challenge in Saharan Africa is definitely water. Whatever you do, whatever seed you choose, if the water is a problem, you have a problem. There's no seed that resists without water. You can see their plants are growing, but some of them will look a bit sad. And this is the reason because our pump didn't work well for a couple of days. So, and that can already cause big, huge problems and stress. So I'm talking a bit out of the box, telling you just like the obstacles and challenges that we have, that everybody has who goes to Africa, who works in Africa. A lot of our neighbors are actually African farmers who have actually jumped into mechanization, bought more land, bigger land, but all have the same problems. Regardless of the good technology, water is one of the biggest issues. So how can we combat water and drought stress? Here you can see okra plant, okra flower, okra fruit. We can combat it with a good irrigation system. Irrigation systems like this drip irrigation system, it's smart because you pump it up, you don't need too much pressure. It's an easy technology, but it requires a lot of attention every day. So having a good agronomist and a good communication with your agronomist is essential to start such a project. And of course, the right machinery. This is how actually Technic Plus met and came together with Mafru. I initially wasn't a shareholder of Mafru. I was a salesman, export director who sold a machine, and in the course of COVID, out of boredom, we talked a lot online, and then they convinced me not only to sell them a machine, but also to get to become one of their investors, and actually now one of their agronomists even on ground. So it's also important for us because as a company, we don't just sell machines to retailers or to service providers as we usually do it across Africa, but this time we also have our own farm where we can do any experiment we want to do. And one of our main experiments was not only presenting and trying to work with our implement to do the tillage and the seeding process and the planting process, but also to introduce our exhaust emissions technology. What we do is we recycle exhaust emissions. We recycle the CO2 and hydrocarbon containing exhaust emissions in order to upgrade soils. Here, the machine, this photo was taken in Austria, so we have been selling this technology across Europe, especially Austria, Germany, Italy for quite some time. And with Mafru, but also with other African importers, we have successfully also brought this technology into Africa because we're convinced that this technology especially shows good results in regions where there's a lot of drought stress, because the valuable nutrients that we can find actually in exhaust gases are already dissolved. So you don't need water in order to get them dissolved in the ground. You just blow them in and they are already dissolved. Little humidity, little rainfalls, little irrigation can already help to boost the effects of this technology. Here, our reliable little Summit tractor from the 60s or 70s, I don't know, has fortunately an old exhaust pipe system, which might be harmful for the environment when we talk about climate change, but good when we want to recycle it, because it's pure carbon that we can reuse for soil upgrading purposes. I'm just stopping now at this point my presentation, because in the course of the presentation of the previous gentleman, I figured that I have another presentation which I forgot to combine with the current one. this presentation explains a little bit and very quickly the carbon farming technology. Basically, what do we find in the exhaust emissions? We find yes, CO2, nitrogen, but also traces of sulfur, and hydrogen. But what does it do? We have, through analysis of the exhaust gases, we have seen that it is possible to provide the soil with several of these elements in micrograms or nanograms, and to stimulate the life of the soil so that the other necessary soil elements that are already in the soil are easier extracted in a form more easily accessible to the plants. Scientific research of this technology has been undertaken already in the United States, namely Montana State University, and also a renowned agricultural university in Morocco is starting now its research on this particular technology. It's very simple technology. It's actually just a blower that sucks the exhaust emissions from the exhaust gas tube and blows it back onto the soil. You can mount it practically on any implement, may it be a subsoiler like here, may it be a plow like here, or a cultivator like here. Here, this is also an article that I've written for Afrique Agriculture, a French-speaking agriculture journal, a couple of years ago, explaining this technology. A little bit scientific background for those who are skeptic about what we are doing. We especially stimulate hydrocarbonoclastic, respectively hydrocarbon degrading bacteria. Those bacteria actually consume the hydrocarbon that is found in the tractor exhaust emissions, and these ubiquitous bacteria feed on oil residues as well. So we're talking more or less about the same source. And in recent years, they have also been used specifically to fight oil disasters. As you can see here, the oil disaster in Lebanon from 2006, where I was one of the cleanup volunteers. And scientifically based also on that technology, we can refer also to the exhaust emissions technology for the exhaust gas recycling process for soil upgrading purposes. Soil upgrading purposes in agriculture. So this is the technology that Technic Plus brought in with its exhaust farming system. What does it mean for the reality given on the fields? Of course, we can't avoid a good irrigation system. Without a good irrigation system, whatever smart technology, whatever smart seeds you bring in, your plant is going to die 100%. But with the exhaust emissions technology, we have observed that drought periods can be overcome for a couple of days, and sometimes, if the soil is at least humid, for a couple of weeks without rainfalls or proper irrigation. And this is the added value that we actually bring in, not only with the seeder, not only with the minimum tillage system, but also with the exhaust emissions recycling technology. But basically, I just don't want to talk only about the machinery that we bring in. I also want to focus on Mafru as a, let's say, example of how we can get started an agriculture business in Africa, how Senegalese can do it, how Gambians can do it, how Ugandans can do it, how people in Zimbabwe can do it, how they can do it across Africa. It is possible. We have a lot of arable land that is not used or not properly used. So putting our heads together, smart people from Africa with smart people from Europe who are willing to go there, or from India or from America. I'm talking now just from my perspective, from my personal geographical perspective, because Europeans don't really have Africa on their map. So, and we want to promote, you can do business in Africa, just need to find the right partners and keep this partnership alive. Provide the technology, the good people are already on ground, they're already there. And with a good logistics, with a good team, everything is doable. So we are producing basically for the local and for the regional market. And there's a big decay of local produce, not only in Senegal, in most African countries, as already some of my speakers have pointed out before. It's a shame that so much food is being imported by the practically poorest continent in the world, whereas they have the capability to actually produce for themselves and for the whole world 2 or 3 times even. So it is not only a possibility to give something back, to provide the technology, to know how to produce for themselves, but also to make, after all, we are not saints, good money. Because where there's nothing or not much, there's a lot to do. A lot to do. And I think this little project can be an example of how we can do it right without actually falling into the trap of doing land grabbing, because after all, we're cooperating with local farmers. Most of our partners and shareholders are local people. We are basically the investors from outside and those who bring the technology in. And I think that could be a nice example how others also could do it. Also, as my previous speakers pointed out, it is also very important, extremely important, to bring in the right seeds. So this is also something that is true. We're always constantly on the search for the best seeds that are drought resistant. But droughts are not the only problem. A little bit rainfall and everything is green in the Sahel and even in the desert. So this is incredible. But green humidity brings also the problem of pests and of fungus and fungal diseases. So, and the better the seeds are, the less chemicals we have to use. And this is also one of our targets. We are not organic, but we are very sustainable and try to use not too much of everything, just the right treatment for our crops, and choosing the right
Yes.
the right seeds is already
Am I
one step
audible,
forward.
Thomas?
Next problem is also, excuse me? Yes?
Yes, Thomas. I'm sorry for the interruption. I was just requesting if we could wind up this session in a minute or so.
No problem. I have already my
Thank you.
last slide. I just wanted to show the last
Okay.
picture. It seems like
Sure. That's wonderful.
this is our field. This is our field from a hill, taking a photograph from a hill. Our 20 hectares of gombo, of okra, which might look for some guys as if we have a lot of pest plants and a lot of herbs and trees in the middle. This is like intentionally. There are no pest plants. We just leave a row of wildflowers in the between each little football fields that we cultivate in order to keep also the insects alive that are very important for pollination. And we also keep the trees. We don't cut them. Agroforestry is one of our pillars because that keeps the humidity, fresh air, ventilation, and healthy soil life intact. So this is also one of the secrets. I'm not a guy who's 100% behind the idea of organic farming, but it is a combination of everything. And agroforestry and keeping a healthy ecology on the field is as important as the right implement and as the right seed. Thank you very much. I'm done, actually.
Thank you so much, Thomas. It was a pleasure hearing to your presentation. Very insightful about the different introductions that can be given in the agriculture field. Once again, I thank all the viewers to be present here at the session 7, and to all the panelists for giving such insightful presentations. It was a pleasure having you at the expo. I now request everybody to move forward with the session 8, which is the last and final session of VIP Roundtable. All the questions can be put up with the Q&A tab, and they will be answered shortly. Thank you so much once again.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Signing off. Bye-bye.